Welcome to the Armory. Today we're going to be answering one of the most common questions we get, and that is, what do we actually take to the range when we go to the range just to train and whatnot? So primarily we're going to go through my very large and extensive range box, but first we're going to go over some of the other stuff that you need to take to the range that normally doesn't fit into this range box. So first and foremost, if you're going to the range to train, obviously you need guns. Normally when I transport my guns, if I'm bringing multiple rifles and multiple pistols, I just take this this rifle box. Actually, this is the box I travel and fly with most often. This is just, again, the box I use for basically everything when it comes to transporting guns. But if I'm just transporting 1 or 2 guns to the range, usually I'll just throw my pistol in the pistol belt and just throw the rifle in the back of my Tacoma or the back of my 4Runner, whatever I'm driving. Next, what you're going to need is some ammo. So I normally just have this ammo box. I know for some people this may not be applicable, but we have all our mags preloaded before we go. And in this box, just preloaded mags, and then I have some loose ammo. So I can reload mags or have specific round counts in magazines if I so desire. But yeah, just an ammo box basically, and there's nothing else in here besides mags and ammo. Now, the last thing you're going to need that normally doesn't fit in this range box is some sort of equipment. So if you're just training for USPSA, or you're training in your actual kit that you own, you're going to want to bring that to the range, obviously. For me, majority of my training is for the tactical game, so this is what I normally bring, is just my tactical games belt, my weighted plate carrier. Now, sometimes I do fit this in this box. That's actually one of the reasons why I have such a large box, is I can actually fit all my kit in this box. So if I just bring 1 rifle and 1 pistol, my pistol will go in here, my plate carrier will go in this box, so I just have this Pelican case and an ammo box, and then just a rifle on my back seat or so. So it's actually a pretty light loadout when I go to the range. But aside from this stuff, let's get into some of the more interesting stuff, what's going on in my range box. So getting into the range box itself, this is a very large Pelican case with a lot of unnecessary stickers on it. You obviously don't need stickers if you don't want them, but I have a ton of stickers laying around, and I just like to put them on things like my Pelican cases. Where I got this Pelican case, this was actually one of the Pelican cases to some equipment that I had on my second team on my last deployment, and it was about to get thrown away, so I just ended up keeping it. I ripped all the foam out and just kept the organizer in here. So long story short, I'm not sure if you can buy this guy, but just a Pelican case of this size, and then get an organizer for it if you want to replicate it. Simple as that. So going through the box itself, there is a lot of stuff in here. Like I said, some of this stuff may not be necessary for you, and some of it's honestly not necessary for me. So I'm going to put some non-essential stuff that's non-essential in my opinion on one side, and then stuff that I think is essential on the other side. So context again, the thing I train for most is the tactical game, so some of this equipment is necessary for me. If you're going out to the range and just shooting, to train for USPSA, or just training 50 yards and in with your red dot carbine, some of the stuff you probably don't need. But or if you're training for something like PRS, there's probably stuff in here that I don't have that you'll need. So just understand that the context of why I have some of this stuff in here is because I train for a very specific sport. So first and foremost, we'll just go through the stuff in the large compartment, then we'll go through the organizer. So we have a spotting scope. This is just from Leupold. I think this is a Mark IV. Yeah, Mark IV 12 to 40. This thing's very decent. I don't think this is absolutely necessary for anyone to have, but it is a very nice thing to have. So we'll put it on the non-essential side. Next, we have a clipboard. In this clipboard, we have all of our targets for zeroing. So I have some high-vis targets in here. They all look empty, but there's a couple of pacers left on there. And then I have some blank paper, and also I have some data on my guns that I own. I actually think this is very essential. This is to track how my guns are doing when it comes to accuracy over their lifespan, and also just having those zero targets as well. It's definitely necessary. Next in the box, we have some bags. So these are a tremendous help for training the more precision type shooting off barricades, and then also for zeroing. I think these are definitely necessary. You probably don't need 2 like I have, a small one and a large one. If you're just going to get these bags to shoot off a barricade or to have on your stock when you zero your gun, you probably only need 1. And honestly, you can get away with just a small bag like this. Next is, this is a range bag, so it's kind of funny I have a range bag in my range box, but I actually use this for the sport I compete in quite a bit. So when I go up to the firing lane before stages, I'll have all of my stuff in here. So I'll have my Kestrel, I'll have my water, I'll have a towel for my gun, I'll have all my mags in here, some extra ammo. And I actually just keep this in here because that's just where I store it basically. So all of my competition mags that I use for competition are in here. So my Glock mags with extended base pads, and then P mags that I only use for competition, I just keep in this bag. So this is essential for me. Again, may not be essential for you, but like I said, some of this stuff is important to me, may not be important to you. De-lead wipes, so especially if you have kids, make sure you de-lead your hands after you shoot, or even after you're just loading magazines or just touching guns in general. This is very important. This is an absolute must for your health, so you don't get, well, you reduce one area that you can get cancer from, I guess. Up next, we have our eye and ear protection. So I'm still using my high threats that I've owned for over 10 years. These are just kind of nostalgic at this point. They're not exactly the best set of hearing protection out there. They're actually pretty outdated, and I lose seal quite often, but you know, like I said, a little bit of nostalgic feeling when I wear these because I've got issued these as my first set of headphones, and 10 years of use is actually pretty good. So, and I like the way they look. So I'm going to throw those over there with definitely the essential equipment. And then in here I have two sets of iPro. I have a black and tan set. The two colors are just for filming, really. If I'm, you know, I just want the iPro to match the kit I'm wearing best, so that's why I have black and tan. And also one of these sets is specific to night vision, so that means one of the sets really scratch up because I have my night vision basically resting on my iPro normally. So I basically have a beat up set and then a nice set, so my black set's generally the more scratched up set. That's why you see me wearing tan more often than not. Alongside with my eyes and ears, I have backup eye and ear protection. So I have my autos as my backup set. These are not only a backup, but also if I'm shooting a very loud gun, like something with a muzzle brake, you know, just basically a loud gun, I'll wear these because these are much better at noise protection comparatively to my high threats. So they are a backup, but also they're for that purpose of just protecting against a little bit louder gun. And then my backup set of iPro, although I have two sets there, is prescription eyewear that I have a prescription tint on it. So if I'm dealing with some headache or a migraine or something like that, I need a little bit of extra help, I'll go ahead and throw these on. These are definitely not essential. I'll throw those on that side. You definitely don't need two sets of eye and ear protection, but it is really annoying when you go to the range and your ear pro fails, or you know, you forget your iPro or something. So it is a definitely nice thing to have two sets. Up next, we have a little toolkit that I made. So this is just a Magpul DACA pouch. I don't know what the nomenclature or the model of this pouch is, but it has just some basic organization in here. And the tools in here are really just there to be able to fix some very basic stuff that I may see on the range with my Glock or my AR-15. So if anything catastrophic fails, I'm probably not gonna be able to address it with this kit. But this kit is nice and compact, so if I do travel with my stuff, you know, I have to fly somewhere with my rifle case, this fits in that case quite nicely, and I have a lot of capability in this toolkit, although, like I said, it won't fix anything catastrophic. I do think a toolkit like this is essential. It is very annoying to go to the range and something minute goes wrong with your gun and you have to end your range day, so definitely have that. Alongside the toolkit here, I have a little pouch for spare parts for my guns. So with the AR, I'll have a spare buffer spring in here, which actually I'm using my spare buffer spring on one of my guns right now, so it's not in this pouch right now. I have a spare BCM bolt carrier group. I have a spare fire control group for an AR, so I just have a BCM trigger in here. One of my least favorite triggers out there, but that's my backup trigger. And then I also have a spare Glock trigger. So there's not really too much you need with a Glock when it comes to spare parts. This is probably one of the least likely things to fail on the Glock, but I have a performance trigger in my gun right now, so I just have the OEM trigger in here. So all that to say, a pouch with some spare parts is not a bad idea. These are just the specific parts that I have. So I do think this is essential. Throwing in the DACA pouch, you could probably do something cheaper like a Ziploc bag, but these are just some pouches we have later on the Armory, and they work quite well. In this pouch, we have some small parts for kit and whatnot, so this is definitely not an essential item, and I honestly have never used any of this stuff in here, but for some reason I just keep it in the range box. So there will be some spare stuff like spare QDs for a sling, some spare sling keepers, there's some spare buckles in here, some 550 cord, some zip ties. I have used zip ties before on the fly, but it's never been in an essential situation where if I didn't have that item, I would have to stop training. So this is definitely a non-essential bag, but the overall idea with this little kit here is lots of things to help repair your nylon kit, repair your sling. I will say if a sling fails or a QD point fails, that does typically hinder your training quite a bit. So stuff to repair sling is actually a nice thing to have, but I wouldn't consider this essential by any means. The next Magpul DACA pouch I have here is just full of batteries. I definitely think this is an essential item to keep in your range bag. You probably don't need as many batteries as I have, but doing what I do for a living, I normally take out a lot of guns when we go to the range, And typically, speaking for whatever reason, all of the optics and lasers on these guns like to die at the same time, so generally go through batteries pretty quickly. And we also have a pretty bad habit of leaving optics and lasers on when we shouldn't. So lots of batteries, definitely important for me. We have a little field cleaning kit here. So this is pretty complex, I'll be honest. There's just about every part you'll ever need to clean. Anything from 9mm to 5.56 to 7.62 is in this kit. I definitely think a kit like this is essential. And over time, you know, if you're kind of new to just collecting stuff for the range and for your guns in general, you'll be able to build out a really good cleaning kit. It's just kind of one of the things where you accumulate bits and pieces for, and this is just the accumulation of my little field cleaning kit after, you know, doing this sort of thing for a little over 10 years now. So what I got going on here is a little bag full of pasters and staples. So I think paste guns are definitely a huge benefit to, you know, just speed up your training on the range instead of, you know, just putting one paster at a time on a target. You get to go a little bit quicker with a paste gun. I do have a few staplers in here. Some of these belong to the range that I have picked up from other people leaving on the range in areas that are not supposed to. That's why they've collected in my range box. I guess I'm just as bad about it since I have 3 of them. But anyways, I also generally have a roll of black and white pasters in here. So all that to say, paste gun, stapler, it's essential for me. May not be essential for you. That does actually bring into another point, something else you need to bring to the range, and that is targets. So target stands we have obviously just left out on the range. If you don't own a range, obviously you can't do that, so you have to bring your own. So you need targets, you're gonna need target sticks. And staples are our preferred method of attaching targets to the target sticks, but you can use something like binder clips, something that's not as, doesn't get used up as much as staples. You know, you only need a few binder clips that'll last a very long time, and they can be reused, and they also don't leave a bunch of staples in your sticks, which over time gets basically ruins the sticks. So binder clips are a good solution instead of staple guns and staples. And then you don't need a paste gun. Like I said, you can just hand put pasters on there if you so desire. This is essential for me, probably not for the majority of people, so I'll set that over there. But you definitely do need something to obviously attach targets. Unless you go to a range that has targets already supplied for you, then you don't need any of that. So we're getting into the organization part of my box now. So in the top right pouch here, I have some of the more expensive items that I keep in my range box, and that is my Kestrel, my Garmin Zero, and my rangefinder. So I'm using a Leupold laser rangefinder for just a mono handheld guy. I really, really like this guy. This is probably not essential for a majority of people, but if you're doing any sort of distance training, whether you're training for the tactical games, you're training for PRS, you're training for just, you know, a practical carbine, as in just shooting in farther than 50 yards, you're definitely going to want something like this. So I'm actually going to throw this over here with the essential list. Garmin Zero and a Kestrel. This is really just for chronoing. Obviously, that's what this thing does, but this is really just for building out dope cards in my case. So I just want to have data on my guns. Probably not essential for you. These are also, between the two of these, a little over $1,000, about $1,200 actually. So like I said, probably not essential for you, but it is essential for me. So I'm gonna throw it over here into that pile. Moving on from that pocket there, we have another one that has just some tape in here. So I have some hockey tape. This is really just for taping up guns, honestly. So we've been tending to do a lot of pistol shooting in one day, like trying to shoot 3,000 rounds in a single day with micro pistols. So that's what I have the hockey tape for, is just to maybe reduce the texture on a pistol or increase the texture on certain other grips. So I have that. Definitely not essential. Electrical tape, always nice to have. You never know what this can come in handy for, but not essential by any means. And then I have this clear tape with this little pouch here full of pens and pencils with some Right in the Range books. So this is actually what I use to make the dope cards that are on my gun. So I'll just actually write out the card on one of these little Right in the Range here, cut it out, and then I'll tape it onto my gun. So for me, this is essential. I do this pretty often because weather changes quite a bit. I change ammos quite a bit going from training to match ammo. And also I have multiple guns that I do this for. So essential for me, maybe not for you. Now, along with the Chrono and the Kestrel rangefinder and then this little pens and pencil kit I have there, I have a quarterback sleeve to go with it. So this is actually my preferred method of displaying data for my gun. So I do have a card taped on my gun, like on the stock or something, or, you know, inside the lens cap of the optic. But when I'm actually doing a stage, like for the tactical games specifically, and there's multiple targets at multiple distances, I'll build out a card specific for the stage, and this is actually one from one of my last matches, and I'll just wear this on my arm. So it's a little bit easier to see versus bringing my head off the gun, looking at the stock, or coming off the cheek well to look at the small numbers on a lens cap. I can draw something very specific out to what I'm doing at that exact moment and just have it on my arm. So for me, very, very essential, but I normally only use that for ranges, for matches, not so much on the range normally. Now going through some of these little small pockets here, this is all very non-essential equipment. So I have a lighter to burn trash on the range, some duct tape, and then some in-ear foamies. This is just for other people in case they forget their ear pro, or if I really need the double up on ear protection, I'll throw those in underneath my over the ears, but it's pretty rare. I have a tape measure for getting a rough measurement on my groups that I shoot. Not essential by any means, not even for me, but it's in there. And then what I got going on here, this is the handbrake for my rifle that I shoot the most often. I haven't been using it, but I keep it in the range box in case I change my mind, because I change my mind about things all the time. So I just keep it on me. Little carabiner for basically having gloves on my belt. If I'm missing one on my belt, I can just pull the one out of my range box real quick. Last few items here, we have a bag of not cocaine. This is chalk. Okay, this is for adding some chalk to your hands when shooting pistol more specifically, but I'm actually going to leave that in there because it looks like my bag ripped and it's going to go all over the place. So I'll leave that in there. The next 3 pouches are shot timers, basically. So I have a Kestrel shot timer in here. So this is a very, very fancy and nice shot timer. This is really good for picking up suppressed shots and just being able to tune the loudness of the shot timer a little bit better, and then also the sensitivity of the shot timer. So definitely not essential. I actually don't use this all that often, but I have it. Then I have some in-ear electric auto noise barriers. I don't need this whatsoever. I was testing these. I just don't prefer in-ear headphones, but I have them in there just in case. It's super hot out and I'm doing a tactical game stage. I may throw those in there just to reduce the heat a little bit, but definitely don't need them. The next 2 pouches, again, shot timers. So we have 2 pack timers going on here. So these are definitely essential. You definitely need at least 1 shot timer. Training really does not happen on the range without a shot timer, and I have 2 because one generally always dies on me, and it ruins our range day if I don't have a shot timer. So I have 2 for redundancy reasons, but you probably don't need to. So I'll throw one over there and keep one over here in the essential pile. Now the last 2 items I have here, I have a Magneto Speed guy. So this is for sticking in my barrel or in the chamber of my gun to cool it off after shooting, a certain amount of rounds to help preserve the barrel a little bit. I actually do think this is essential. These guys are pretty cheap. They're sub 50 bucks. There's really no reason not to have these, and they do nothing but good for your gun. So I'm gonna throw this over here in the essential pile list, and then I have a stopwatch. So this is primarily just for doing mock tactical game stages. So in case my watch dies or I'm doing something where I don't wanna wear a watch, like lifting heavy sandbags, because this thing will destroy my wrist. That's why I'm actually not wearing it on this wrist right now. I can use a stopwatch instead, but definitely not essential. So that's everything out of my range box. This is just about everything I take to the range on a normal basis. There's only one other thing that I take, but I just leave that in my truck, and that is a bug spray, a lotion for tick prevention, and then sunscreen. So all organic, obviously. I normally don't keep that in my range box in case it leaks. Sometimes I throw it in here, but it's a real bummer when something like that leaks and gets all over your stuff. So I keep that in my truck. But hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I think I bring just about everything you could ever possibly want or need to the range. So hopefully you guys just got some ideas out of this if you're kind of looking to build out your range box, range bag, and just looking to just make sure you have all your bases covered and you have everything you need to go out to the range. So appreciate you guys watching. If you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, shoot us an email at team@TREX.arms.com. Check out our website. We sell a lot of this stuff. But until next time, guys, this is Brandon from T.REX. My foot is hurting. I'm gonna have to like sit on it.
Bro doing the stanky leg.
Wake up, wake up.